Hello everyone. Today we're going to do, I guess you can call it a cold air intake, but it's going to be just the intake tube. I am going to leave the stock air box because it's already cold air. I mean, the air comes in from the fender here, and I also want to retain my actual filter, and then the filter box also has the mass airflow sensor in there. So all that is fine. I'm not gonna waste the time and purchase one of those eBay kits. They're like 150 bucks and they replace the air box, and the air box is essentially sucking in pretty much engine compartment air, which makes it a hot air intake, which is pointless. So I'm retaining the factory box because it's already cold air intake. And what I'm replacing is this disastrous air plenum box that General Motors puts in pretty much everything. I guess all manufacturers have to do it because of noise pollution. They don't want to hear that air rushing in noise. So I took it out. It's essentially a band here, hose clamp here. You unscrew it, and then another hose clamp at the throttle body, and it just pops out. And this is what the beast looks like. It's all kinds of, I don't know, air plenums, boxes to kind of slow the air down so you don't hear it, but we all want to hear that noise. That's the point. So this is what I'm essentially going to be replacing. It's one piece. You got a clamp here and a clamp at the throttle body, and then you take the PCV valve hose off, you just push it in, it pops off, simple as that, and then the whole thing pops out. So we're going to replace it with 3-inch aluminum tubing. I purchased a intercooler piping kit for 3-inch, and it came with pipes, a bunch of different bends pipes, 45s, 90s straights, and then U-bends, and it also comes with a bunch of blue 3-inch clamps, or 3-inch couplers with a bunch of clamps. I did have to spend a little extra on this coupler. This is a reducing coupler because the air box, the mass airflow is 3.5 inches and the piping is 3 inches, so it's a 3.5 to 3-inch reducer, and it came with its own clamps. It was an extra $16. I couldn't find an intercooler kit with black couplers, so there's going to be one blue coupler at the throttle body and then the black one at the mass airflow sensor, and then the piping is going to be welded. All right, let's start on it. All right, so here is the front mount intercooler kit that I purchased on eBay. It's the 3-inch kit. Comes with a bunch of bends and miscellaneous clamps and silicone couplers. So I ended up using one 90-degree bend. Is all I needed to do this. Like I probably should have mentioned, this is on a 2016 Chevy Silverado 1500 with the 4.3 V6. The kits were about 150 bucks on eBay, but they came with, like I said, they came with that hot air box, as I call it. It's not a cold air box. So factory box is perfect for what I need it for. I'm not looking for performance. I'm just looking to get rid of that annoying huge air plenum box. And you know, if I can hear the air rushing in, that's a bonus too. I doubt it's going to add horsepower. It may, but I'm not going to notice it. 1 or 2 horsepower here or there, you're not going to notice. But here is the one piece that I used. I cut it 3 times, so I ended up cutting it here at the plenum, or at the throttle body. I essentially cut the whole piece off right where it starts finishing its bend. So that essentially the whole piece here is where I cut it, where it starts to bend. Fits in there nicely, and it lines up perfectly. And then this piece is the remaining piece. I cut off this end, so I essentially cut it from here, there, and cut it off. These pipes do come with a bead rolled in them. I did cut both of those off because I'm using a chop saw, a wood chop saw to cut the aluminum. It's fine. My blade's already been through hell and back from projects, so I'm not too worried about dulling the blade. But here's a chop saw. You have to take out the bead rolls first so you can get the straightest cut possible on the pipe, because you do have to weld this. If you don't want to weld it, then you can use all the couplers that come with the kit. Honestly, it's going to look stupid that way, so if you don't have an aluminum welder, then this is your other option here. It can be done. So I paid, I think, $104 for the front mount intercooler piping kit, 3-inch, and then I paid $16 or so, $17 for that 3.5 to 3-inch reducer that goes on the mass airflow. I purchased it because it comes with a lot of piping. I can do multiple cars with this instead of paying $150 for just one cold air intake, as they were selling them on eBay. Essentially, they're hot air intakes. They're useless. So I'm going to do my other vehicles with the rest of the piping, because there's plenty here. This truck took one 90-degree pipe, so perfect. And then chop saw is your only other tool. If you want to use a chop saw with a metal cutting blade, you can do so, but don't use anything else. You're not going to be able to make the cut straight enough to get a weld on there, because it's very difficult to weld aluminum with a gap. You don't want those gaps if the angles are off. So I ended up with a one pipe ready to go. Sorry, it's a little long walk to the truck here. So I got the one pipe ready to go, ready to weld. So I'm going to weld that up really quick, and I'll be right back. All right, we're going to start welding up this intake tube. Hope you guys can see this. I'm not sure what's going to happen when we start welding here. It might make a flash to where you can't see it. We'll see. Alright, I'm going to tack weld it. And I'm going to flip it around. Got a good tack weld on this side. I'm going to tack weld it on the other side so it doesn't warp or move all over the place. With aluminum, you've got to make sure you clean it, because it'll tell you it's dirty when you start welding on it and you see black soot and the arc starts jumping everywhere and making a mess. This is the shitty part of welding aluminum with a TIG. It's slow, it's tedious, but it works. It comes out really pretty. Don't be afraid to TIG weld. I mean, I started off TIG welding. I literally practiced TIG welding, aluminum at that. I TIG weld better than I MIG weld, and that's just how I learned. I've been TIG welding for 20 years now, maybe more. I don't remember. But you know, not professionally, but for myself. But don't be afraid to go out and get a TIG welder. Just make sure you get an AC DC TIG welder, because you need AC current to weld aluminum. The DC, the cheaper DC TIG welders won't do it. And yes, I technically should have gloves on because this piece is going to get hot soon. But I'm working around it. It's cold in the garage. Now's the time for gloves. I hope you can hear me. I know the weld is pretty loud. Touch the tip, and I gotta regrind it. you accidentally touch the tungsten to the metal, you contaminate it, and then you got to regrind it. I'm using my bench grinder. It's a dedicated tungsten grinder. I don't use it for anything else. To grind that stick back on there. Almost there. This is probably a boring video to watch, but like I said, you can always do the cheaper way and just put the clamps there if you don't have a TIG welder. But you know, it's going to look ugly. Man, it takes a long time to go 360 degrees around the pipe. Batting. Pipe fell. Almost there, like a half-inch more to go. Just keeping it as clean as I can. We're almost done. While we're letting it cool down, I'll show you the welder. It's thermal arc, AC/DC TIG welder. It's I think a sister to another company, ESAB, I believe, and it's made in England, I think. Good welder. You know, it's not up there with the Millers. I prefer the Millers, but this one I couldn't pass up. I picked it up used, and it works great. It's a 200 amp welder, AC/DC. It also has pulse control. If you're doing really thick aluminum or any thick metal, you can pulse it and just dip and keep going. But this one is 220 volt input. Most of them are when you're up around that 200 amp output range. But it also acts as a stick welder as well. If you're welding thick metal or something, steel that you just want to weld, you can bust out the stick welder and weld it. But I prefer TIG any way around it. It takes forever. But you know, it looks much better than any kind of MIG or stick welder. So this is what it looks like here. Clean up the welds. So it's pretty much what aluminum welding looks like. You know, that's good welding to me. I'm not a professional welder. A professional welder will probably frown upon it, but I've been doing it this way for 20 years and never had a problem. So the only other thing we're going to do is once we fit the pipe, we have to weld. I'm going to weld a flat piece of aluminum bar on the side here, because we have to put the PCV valve in here. I'm just going to weld a 1/4 or 1/8 inch plate there, and then screw a hose barb in there, and then that'll be for the PCV hose that connects to there, because we have to connect that system. All right, that'll finish up the welding part of it. Let's see how it fits. All right, so I fitted the pipe and it fits great. I determined I want to put the PCV hose barb here, so I cut out this 1/8 of an inch flat plate, put it in the vise, and then just tapped it over to make it the curve shape of the actual pipe. Everything's cleaned and ready to go. If you want to do it that way, it's flat bar. Oh, I'll probably show it this way. It's flat bar from Home Depot. It's 1.5 inch wide by 36 inches. It's long, so you're gonna have this for a very long time, and it's an 1/8 inch thick aluminum. So my intention is to drill it afterward later on, once I determine the size of the hose barb I need. Once I drill it, then I can tap it, because this is only a 1/16 inch wall aluminum, and there's just not enough meat there to catch threads. Another option is eBay does sell weld-in hose barbs, so you can just drill your hole and weld it in instead of doing all this. I did not order that piece, so I'm gonna do it this way. And since I have the plate, 3 feet of it, I'll do it on the other vehicles since I have so many pipes left over. All right, let me weld this up really quick and I'll show you the finished product. It takes a long time to weld, so I'm not too fancy with the video editing to speed up the video to show you guys everything. So let me weld this up and I'll be right back. All right, we're on to the final finishes here. So I welded on this section here. I don't know if you can see that. This is where I'm going to drill it later, and then I'll put a hose barb, threaded hose barb in there for the PCV system. Everything is ready, and now in order to get a tight fit, we have to roll a bead on it now. So I already rolled this bead with the tool. This is a bead roller. This is a pipe bead roller. This is not the bead roller you're thinking of where you're actually bead rolling flat panels for structure. A lot of the shops do it that way, and they also make nice fancy panels or something with them as well. But this is specifically for pipes, thin wall pipes. This is not going to be able to do anything thick wall. So what we're going to do, because we want the silicone coupler to grip this, we're going to roll this bead on here now. Now, if you don't have one of these bead rollers, you do have a couple of options. One option being the original pipes, where I actually cut the bead off of it so I can cut the pipe straight. You can do that as well. You can cut these off and then re-weld them on, but I cut this off too thin, so you're going to have to leave some meat on the back so you can actually weld this back onto the end if it doesn't have one there, which most of the time they're not. Or the second option would be to use your TIG welder to lay a TIG bead around the pipe. That does take much longer, but that will work as well. This tool, I've been wanting one for a while because I do a lot of this stuff. $100 on eBay. If you're going to use it more than once, just buy it. So essentially, we're rolling a small, tiny bead at a time. This is not going to roll it all at once, so you got to be patient with it. You'll probably have to go 4 or 5 times, and then every aspect you'll have to tighten it. Things in the way here. Hold on. I'm just going to tighten it a little bit. Jam-packed here, sorry about that. I'm just going to keep spinning it, and it went around already, so just tighten it again. And it slowly forms that bead. This way there's no issues of the silicone couplers blowing off, which they shouldn't. You know, this is not a boosted application. This is just an intake pipe. I'm just kind of turning it and kind of holding it flat against the tool so it doesn't walk away. You get that groove in there pretty good, it shouldn't walk away. Alright, and I don't know if you can see it, but there's the bead. It raised it about 1/8 of an inch. That's all you really need. If you're boosting it, you might want to go a little more. Alright, let's install it. All right, here is the 98% finished product. So the pipe is in, it is mounted, looks good. You can go further by polishing it if you want. I'm not that kind of person. I'm not gonna sit there and spend 30 minutes polishing it, but if you want to, go for it. So the remaining part is the PCV hose. So this is the factory PCV. It sits in there like this, and then that ugly air box or plenum, whatever you want, silencer they call it, sits up here, and then the nipple from the box goes in here. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna cut this hose off, use one of the quick disconnect nipples, and then we're gonna find a hose barb that's this size, and then just connect it with some regular rubber hose, probably nylon coated, not coated, but what's the term? They use it in fuel hoses. It has nylon stitching in it, just for a little security. There's no pressure or anything in there, but you might as well use the better stuff. You don't want to redo this again. But it's just going to be a small, maybe 8-10 inch hose, maybe even less. I gotta go to the store and get that right now, and then we'll finish this up. All right, we're on our final step to get this intake tube together. So what I have going on here, this is the original valve. The original valve here, that goes to the crankcase, or positive crankcase ventilation valve that goes on top of the valve cover. So what I did was I just took a razor and let's see if you can see it. I don't know if you're going to be able to see it. It's just plastic here. So I just cut the plastic part here with the razor, and then the fitting pops right out. So we're only going to use one fitting, because the other side we're going to use the hose barb. So I'll get that out of the way here. The hose barb, this is all my local Home Depot had. It's a 5/8 inch by 1.5 inch. The 1/2 inch threads it's pretty big. If you can find something smaller, then that'll work out better. And then to drill it, I used a 1/2 inch drill, because that's pretty much all I have. And then I used a Ryobi drill with a stepper drill bit. So these things are handy when you got to go above 1/2 inch. This is the smaller of the two I have. The other one goes even bigger, but this is all you need. So I already drilled the hole, as you can see. So there's the hole. There are no threads in it. I made it very tight because I don't have a threading, a tap and die set that's that large. So I'm gonna tighten it just with the threads that are on there, and then it's gonna make its own threads. The brass is definitely stronger than the aluminum, so it'll bite in there. All right, let's put it together. All right, so another thing I'm going to add is a little RTV sealant, just for some insurance, because it's a tight fit, but I want to make sure there's no air leaks, because this is after the mass airflow sensor. So if you have an air leak, your engine's going to run like shit. Sorry, I'm kind of doing this on the back of a scooter here. I'm out of room in this garage, so. get it in there, and then I'm going to use a 21 inch size 21 millimeter socket and ratchet, and then screw it in here. That's good. And there we go, it's on there. That RTV will dry pretty quick, and now we can finally put it back together. And then I have this going on the valve body, this in the intake pipe, and then connecting the two, I have I bought some hose on another project. This is 5/8 inch hose. It does have the nylon stitching in there, so it can be used for a fuel line, and it is marked fuel line right here. But there's going to be no pressure in it, so it's a little better insurance to have the better line. So let's get all this together and install it. All right, here is the finished product. So what I did, don't forget the hose clamps. I forgot to mention it in the previous video, or previous timeline, I should say. I had these in my box, so I remember I didn't need to buy them. But here's the fuel line. All you need is about a 1 foot piece. It's 5/8 of an inch inside diameter fuel hose. So 1 foot will work. All you need is 1 foot to buy and trim it. They're both on there. This is the factory little holder for that useless air plenum. I don't even know what the hell they call it. Air silencer. It just clipped on here. This you can just bend out of the way, or if it bothers you, just cut that son of a bitch off at the bottom and be gone with it, because you're never going to put that box back on. But it frees up quite a bit of room. You know, this whole area here was covered with that box, so now you can actually get to the serpentine belt a little easier without removing everything, that air box in the way. And since we keep the factory air box and mass airflow, I'm going to let this air filter expire, and then I'll swap it out with a K&N or something aftermarket, freer flowing. But that's it. Pretty simple. I was making a video on it, so it took me about 4 or 5 hours, but you can easily do this in 2 hours if you have all the tools to do it, and if you order everything right up front. There's really nothing out of the ordinary that you need besides that TIG welder. If you have a TIG welder, you can pretty much do it all. And I did have to order this separate from the front mount intercooler kit, because it is a 3.5 to 3 inch step down. But otherwise, the bead roller, that's just something I use a lot, so you don't have to invest $100 in that if you don't want to. Like I said, you can just weld a bead across, or weld the beads you cut off on the pipes. So I have a lot more front mount intercooler left, so there's 2 more cars there. A Sonic and a GMC Acadia that I'm going to be doing the same thing to. So stay tuned. Thanks, guys.